Rick Smith. Howard Solomon.
Here.
Everybody could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we're going to have our public hearing on fiscal year 2016-2017 budget. And with that, we'll open the meeting. Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll close the hearing then. Thank you. Next, we have public participation and recognition. Public comment. Members of the public who wish to speak to the board should complete a request card prior to the meeting. This section of the meeting will be reserved for comments from the public. All comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Criticism of individuals is not in order. And if any names are mentioned tonight during public comment, you will be automatically asked to stop speaking. No names may be used. Thank you. First, we have Jessica Lyons on assessment.
Okay, hello.
I'm sorry.
Hello, mine is just about assessments in general and more so for the high school level. So I had made a phone call, no name mentioned, to kind of inquire about the high school because prior to, I had already talked to the school district about the state going to SAT. My kids are now currently in high school, and I'm asking about test prep and things like that. We get flyers that talk about fees for outside agencies. However, when we look at preparing with a local society and we look at what the school improvement plan is, I'm really concerned about test prep for SAT. So the SAT suite of assessments, I haven't received any letters about that in the school district at all. I'm a little concerned about that.
Thank you. Next, we have Sean LaPlante, needs assessment.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I'm here to speak in favor of the diversity needs assessment. So I'm sure most of you have seen on TV, read in the newspaper, viewed on the internet, or listened to on the radio. Our country is facing some challenging times in terms of cultural and racial tension. This tension exists throughout the country. DeKalb is not the exception. Just the other day, I was at a school, and students were just about to enter for morning instruction. I saw a 4th grade student with a frown on his face. He just seemed upset. I said to him, "You might feel a little better if you tried to smile." And he stated right back, "I can't. My country doesn't love me." He was a young African American, and I immediately knew what he was talking about. He sees the same reporting as we do. He listens to adults around him. I can't say exactly how he feels or walked in his shoes. What I can say is he doesn't feel welcome. It makes me wonder, does he feel welcome in DeKalb? Does he feel welcome in his school? When he goes on to middle school and high school, will he feel welcome? So there I am, staring at this young man, paused in momentary silence. How do I respond? What do I say? This is the problem. I don't know how to respond. I'm ignorant. I like to think that I was brought up by my mother and father to respect all people as human beings, but this alone does not give me the skills to help this young man feel comfortable in the country, city, and in his country, city, and school. I don't know what he needs. I think we're at a crucial time in our district. We saw exactly how quickly a few words can ignite those feelings of mistrust. Did our students, teachers, and administrators know how to react? I think we can all agree that it could have been a lot worse. I think we'd be foolish to not learn from our past. As a DCTA co-president, I'd like to see all my members receive the adequate training needed to respond to a situation like this, but more so to be able to have the knowledge and skills to prevent it from happening in the first place. As I listened to Dr. Cohen at the last meeting, it was clear that we must first figure out what our needs are as a district. The information from the needs assessment will help direct our diversity committees in the right direction. To end, I come back to that fourth grade boy. I walked down the hall as he was walking to class. I asked him a few questions. In the end, I told him what I would do to do what is in my power so he didn't feel that way. That is why I'm here tonight. I strongly feel that we should figure out what our needs are so people of all race, religion, and culture feel like a valued member in our district.
Thank you. Next we have Diane. Diane? It's all right.
Hi. I have prepared words that I'm just going to speak off the cuff. I represent, being a parent in our district, I'm also the president of the DeKalb Education Foundation. I raised a daughter back in 1994. She started school. She's now almost 28 years old. And as a part of the LGBT community, what I experienced was not knowing what our schools would do regarding our family. Would they embrace us? Would they even accept us as a family with two moms? And I think the teachers were well-intentioned, but I think there was very little training. There was very little awareness of how to work with a family like ours. Now I'm raising a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I feel a little better about it, but I still feel like, does everyone really know how to care for children who are of a race other than theirs, of an ethnicity other than theirs, of a sexual orientation other than theirs? So what I hope for is that I urge you to have this assessment happen, because I think it's time that we ask the questions. I think the questions are more obvious now of what we need to ask parents, especially about what they want for their children, and then I think we have to accept the answers and go through.
Thank you. Thank you. Next we have Brooke Condon.
Hello. I am here tonight to represent the Social Justice Committee. Most people that are actually in doctoral and postgraduate classes tonight, so they couldn't be here, but we wrote this statement together today. But also most of the people on that committee who are teachers and administrators in the district also are parents in this district. And so we're all also speaking as parents. Our Social Justice Committee was formed last spring under your direction. As a committee, we would like to express our overwhelming and unanimous support for the diversity needs assessment. We find this assessment to be vital as we strive to serve the needs of our community and students in an inclusive and culturally responsive environment. For the last few months, you have received status updates on how we have evolved and how our conversations have changed and our everyday interactions and instruction has evolved. Based on this evolving process, we respectfully ask you to support the needs assessment. District 428 has undergone other attempts to bring these conversations to the forefront in the past. However, it has never been in such a practical, logical, and meaningful way as under the leadership of the NIU staff, not to be named, who trained us. Their approach, beginning with asking us to look at our own self without judgment, helped spark conversations that we needed to have in this district for years. We had open and honest dialogue, explored problems and tensions as they arose, and formed a greater collaborative relationship. There's only so much impact the 15 of us meeting every other Wednesday night for 6 weeks can have. Our district employs hundreds of adults, educates thousands of students, and represents tens of thousands of community members. It's time for the Board of Education to open up these conversations to the greater community of employees, students, and stakeholders to help drive our division of school, community, and family, a partnership for education, in addition to filling our goal of developing, communicating, and implementing a plan to address diversity. Before we can worry about graduation rates, SAT scores, and PARCC scores, we first must be able to negotiate how we treat one another and how we treat our families. In order to adequately prepare our students for a global society, we must have the appropriate knowledge and educational foundation to look at this through a multicultural lens, one that is inclusive, uniting, and based on understanding and free of predisposed beliefs and assumptions. In doing so, we not only secure the futures of our current youth, but everyone they interact with. So as a call to action tonight, the Diversity Committee that is formed in the district urges you to commit to the Diversity Needs Assessment, as well as the Diversity Plan proposal that was brought forth at the last board meeting.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Amy Fontana, Kim Pasega, Victoria Hensley, Emily Weller, and Penny Hallstrom, and this is on the diversity plan.
Thank you for the opportunity for letting us speak to you this evening. My name is Kim Pasega, and this is Amy Fontana. And we are teachers at Gwendolyn Brooks Elementary School. Our Brooks colleagues joined us in support of our concern that the board did not approve the funds for the needs assessment and diversity plan at the September 6th board meeting. And we understand that you're asking for bids from other vendors, but we're concerned that this initiative will lose steam and will become a lower priority if the needs assessment isn't completed soon. We appreciate your commitment to fiscal health and the challenges of balancing a budget in this economic climate. We believe but prioritizing needs is the name of the game. We believe completing the needs assessment and creating a diversity plan deserves to be a top priority in our district. If you're interested in continuing the social justice work that was started, it is imperative that we move forward in a systematic and thoughtful manner. People with a lot of experience doing this kind of work with large systems like ours recommend that the next step is that we do a needs assessment and diversity plan. Our staff has worked without pay on this committee, and Northern has provided high-quality training without cost to the district. The Social Justice Committee isn't trained to adequately complete the next steps without outside help.
We believe that the smartest financial decision would be to invest our money wisely and correctly assessing the situation and then creating a plan based on needs would be the smart investment, we believe. It may seem as though we understand the problem and we can already identify the needs in our district, but the people in this room only represent the perspectives of some of the stakeholders in our district. Correctly in identifying and attending the actual needs in our district to help lead to fewer discipline issues and help prevent the type of incident that occurred at high school last February. A lot of time and money are invested in solving problems that we think could be prevented. You will see a return on your investment if issues are identified correctly and a systematic plan is created with the help of knowledgeable and experienced advisors. In the past, I think many of us as teachers feel like our district has started a number of initiatives without always following through. Unfortunately, this leads to a decreased buy-in from staff and other stakeholders. We don't want to see this happen with the recent social justice work that has taken place.
And just to speak to that a little bit more, some of the teachers in our district were asked, or in our building were asked to share some data, and just to share with you some of the numbers. In one of our programs that's designed, special education programs that's designed for emotional disturbance needs, 5 out of 8 students in a classroom are male African American students, and that's just demonstrating that this is a priority in the district. That because that disparity of having 5 out of 8 students doesn't reflect the total population within the DeKalb district as a whole, and so that's something that maybe we need to reflect on our own needs is how we can address that. So educators want to meet the needs of everyone, and we're asking that you support us in this goal and seriously consider moving forward with a needs assessment and a diversity plan.
Thank you. So next we have Samantha McDavid, and she's also speaking on the diversity needs assessment.
I attended the last open meeting and heard the summary of the diversity needs assessment proposal. I cannot sufficiently express my concern as a mother of students of color in this district, a wife of an administrator of color in this district, and a community member that loves this city. In light of recent events, I urge the school board to please consider the diversity needs assessment proposal. We need to meet the needs of our students of all color, culture, and sexual orientations, as well as prepare our staff to work with them, or work with all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, Bessie Fernandez, and she also would like to speak on the diversity. Is that it? No? No. Oh, yeah. Well, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. As long as I have an opportunity, I came to talk to you about something else, and I forgot to sign up.
Okay.
But I'll make it real.
All right. Well,
real
yeah,
quick.
go ahead.
I taught for 39 years, so you know that kind of teaches you how to interact with children and so on. And all of what I'm hearing here is something that I very much believe in. That children need to be accepted, and when they walk into your classroom, you love them, no matter what. I mean, that's just the way it is. But as you're assessing this program, whether to go with this or another similar program or not at all, also think of the powerful teachers that you have in this district and how they are saddled with 28 to 30 kids in a kindergarten class. It's very, very hard, no matter how much training the teacher has in diversity, to be able to deal with that many children.
I think that's something that you need to keep in the back of your minds. And also preschool. That is something that is very important because sometimes when children who are at risk, when they come into the classroom as kindergartners, they're many times 5 years behind already. So preschool and the very young is, a good thing for us to be, thinking about. 39 years, I know a little bit about it. But and we do have powerful teachers here. So this, I'll give this to Andrea. This is a schedule of the TIF meetings that the city is going to be holding. They're being thought of as board meetings, but they're really not. They're really TIF meetings. But I think it might be a wise thing for folks from the board or from your staff to attend one or all of those meetings, just to get the input, and hopefully people from the community can attend those meetings. I'm a huge advocate of packing the halls as far as public entities are concerned. I think people should go to meetings all the time. So, I do.
Okay, next we have board committee reports and correspondence. Anybody?
Curriculum Council, super busy over the summer, 4,100 hours of professional development our teachers participated in. So thank you all for that. There is so much stuff going on in curriculum right now. I would be here an hour trying to discuss what people are looking at, but a lot of work is being done. So just know that.
Anybody else?
I guess I could speak for a moment on the FFAC meeting that was held last Thursday. Just high points of what was discussed. First meeting to really get rolling this year. To Bessie's point, along with that TIF impact fees will be discussed. There's going to be a subcommittee and a number of people from FFAC and the community. We're looking for people from the community that are knowledgeable, that are interested, that would want to serve on such a committee. The intent being to try and, for the district, to get a position, to get understanding, and to help the city and the other tax entities that are taking your taxpayer dollars to do the right thing, the best thing that they can, that we all can for the community. Also talked about the county sales tax. You may have heard about that. Looks like that's a dead issue for the time being. There are a number of issues with that, and so that's going to be tabled, I guess you'd say, for now, looks like. A number of other issues, but I think for right now that's probably the high points. Legislative updates. You may know that Bob Pritchard, local representative, was assigned by the governor to a committee that's supposed to look at the allocation of state funds to education. We're still concerned as a district about being prorated, about not getting quite a large amount of money from the state. And so that's something else that's being continued to be looked at. And we hope we'll have some forward progress during this year. I think that's all I'll say for now. There's more, but that committee is on the roll.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Next we have the possible expulsion of student 92016. And this is an action item that the Board of Education approve the expulsion of student 92016 as identified in the student's file kept in the superintendent's office for the remainder of the 2016-2017 school year, including the summer session of 2017. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Vicky Hern favor.
Yes.
Karen Malat.
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes.
Howard Solomon.
Yes.
Next is presentations. Auditorium Student Tech Crew Club Proposal, and this is Mr. Brian Allen and Mr. Nick Perfect, and this is an informational item.
Hello.
Hi.
As I sent you information, I took over as auditorium manager last year. Lots of students are interested in learning the behind the scenes. So basically I want to get a formal club set up so that students that want to learn lighting, set design, so on and so forth, have a place to go. It's something that a lot of students have come to me and asked to help. They don't want to just help during the show, they want to help things are going on in the auditorium. As you probably know, the auditorium is very, very busy, and it would be nice to have a little bit of student help also. So that's what I'm proposing to see if we can do that.
How many students do you think are interested, ballparkish?
From what I've seen and heard, between 15 and 20.
Wow.
Yeah. They don't want to work just during a performance or during a show. They want to learn all the background and so on and so forth, and with the resources of like staging and so on. They want to come in and help and do more professional background and so on. So there's a lot of interest out there. Yes.
Is there a way that students are using this to learn things along the line of carpentry skills that will possibly be beneficial to them in later life?
Oh, absolutely. Building is set on the stage, like when we built the one for Limited Tenor, it looked like a hotel. And there's a lot of carpentry involved with that, a lot of planning. I even teach some of the students that there's mathematics involved. Everyone says they don't like math, well, you need it for this kind of stuff too. So it's definitely something they can learn for the future. I know a couple of students want to actually go into college for theater, and that'd be a good stepping stone for them.
Other questions? With a consensus to bring this back as an action item? All right, good. Thank you. Next, we have 5 essentials results 2015-2016, and this is Dr. Amy Luckner. It's an information item.
So the purpose of this presentation today is really to give the board an update on our 5 essentials data from last year. As you may recall, we completed the 5 essentials survey as part of a state initiative to get some information about our kind of general climate in our schools. There's a couple of different areas as well that they focus on. So these are the data based on parent information, student information, and teacher feedback from last year. It was given between basically January and the beginning of March. That's when the data were collected, and the results came to us over the summer. Go ahead, thank you. So as you may remember, we presented this before, so some of this may be familiar, but just to review, there are a couple of key areas that the 5 Essentials survey aims to gather information about, and these areas are picked or defined because they're seen as, based on extensive research, the critical components for school success, critical components of the school environment. And so the 5 different areas are effective leaders. So these would be an indicator that the principal is working with teachers to implement a clear and strategic vision for school success. Collaborative teachers, that the staff is committed to the school, receiving strong professional development and working together to improve the school. Involved families, that the entire school staff is building strong relationships with families and communities, support learning. A supportive environment, that the school is safe and orderly. Teachers have high expectations and support their students to realize their goals. Ambitious instruction, that classes are academically demanding and engaging. So those are the 5 areas. And again, this is based on research out of the University of Chicago that's identified that these areas lead to improved outcomes for students. That's what we're talking about, that these areas are then related to positive climates in the school that facilitate learning in our environment. So as I indicated, that we have teachers and students that complete the survey. The student surveys are at the secondary level, middle and high school students complete it. And then our parents complete a survey as well. The parent survey is a little bit separate and is not included in these specific domains. The performance levels are calculated based on benchmarks developed by the state, kind of based on state average. And so you'll see that one of the pieces we're going to talk about are kind of where are we on this implementation spectrum that they've identified. And so really it goes from least implementation to most implementation, and just like you would expect, more is better in this case, where really we're looking for more or most implementation of the indicators that then facilitate this positive school climate that's important for our students. So that'll come back around as well. So the first area I want to talk about is the effective leaders area. And so both I want to kind of give you a sense of where we are right now, but also the progress that we've made in the area.
And so you can see here in the blue bar across the top that we are kind of right at a 57 there. So overall, we're an average implementation, which is a good spot to be. That means relative to other schools in the state, our kind of the effectiveness of our leaders is about average. And what's exciting about that, if you scroll down to go to the next slide, is we've made a lot of progress in this area. And so that's something you see, the black triangles are our data for our schools across the district. And then the squares that you see that are kind of a tan color, those are the averages for the state as a whole. So as the state has kind of been going down on average at our district, the effectiveness of our leaders, according to our staff and our students, has been increasing. And I think we're really on a trend there to even move into more implementation. Collaborative teachers, again, this is an indicator of the kinds of collaboration that are going on in the buildings between the teachers, between staff in different buildings, of the amount of time they have for professional development opportunities. And so here you can see we're actually in the more implementation range, which is an exciting place to be. I don't know if you can see this from here, but it does give you an indicator of kind of some of the sub areas. And one of the higher ones that stands out in this domain is the quality professional development. And that's actually what's driving this into the more implementation range. And so then on the next slide, we can see that, again, we're seeing progress across the years in this area. So whereas the state has kind of a flat line there of kind of where we are on actually collaborative. We'll check that out. So then but basically, that is the right data. So that we are seeing an increase in there as well. Let's go on to the next one, we'll come back to that. So supportive environment is where the really getting a sense, here's where our student input becomes pretty valuable. So getting a sense of how students and teachers are feeling in our schools. For students, this works on both, are they feeling that the work is kind of geared towards them, personalized for them? Are they feeling safe in their schools? Do they feel like the work is valuable kind of for their future? Is there student-teacher trust as well? So those are some of the basic indicators for this domain. And we can see for that, if you can, that we are improving across time, but this is an area where we are still in the less implementation performance level. And so we're kind of below the state average in terms of our supportive environment in our schools. Ambitious instruction is also another area that includes both student perspective and staff perspective. Includes things both in terms of specific content areas, English instruction, math instruction, but really kind of an idea about how our students feeling that they're being kind of grown in terms of their academic skills, and the quality of discussions that are occurring in some of the other areas. And so for ambitious instruction, we do also see growth over time. And for us, actually, there's a lot of growth. That we moved primarily from less implementation to average implementation. And so that's a really great trend to have. But what we also see then is we are still below the state in terms of the ambitious instruction. So that's an area we're hoping to continue to grow as well. So then overall, what we have here is the kind of where each school is in our district, the number of schools at different levels. And so we have kind of here, again, it goes from lower to higher, and we would like more schools in the higher ranges, indicating that they are, thanks for the, indicating that they have more of these things in line or in place to facilitate the positive learning climate in our buildings. And so what I want to point out to you, I'm assuming that this slide is still there. If you go to the next slide, this is last year. So this is where our schools were last year. And so if you can keep that visual in your mind and then go back one slide, here's where we are this year. So we have seen movement towards the more implementation, which is a great place to be. If you were quantifying it, if we gave kind of each category a number, Last year, our average score was about 3.14, and this year it's 3.46. So across the district, we're seeing movement towards more implementation of these key features as well. That's a brief overview. I intend to kind of give a snapshot of our 5 essentials data. What questions can I answer for you?
In the area of supportive environment, our overall results and scores are below state average. And in the supportive environment area in particular, the state average went up by about 10 points last year, while we went up by about 4.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not only behind where the state is, we're also falling farther behind.
Mm-hmm.
So can you give a few examples of what it is we're measuring and how we would know that can turn this around? What's out there that we could do better?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. I actually have that one pulled up here in terms of the actual kinds of items that are on that scale, which I think is what you're looking for. If you can go back to the supportive environment overview slide. The kind of sub areas that you'll see there is peer support for academic work, academic personalism, safety, school-wide kind of future orientation, student-teacher trust, and then expectations for post-secondary education. And it's hard to see from here, but where kind of the lower scales among those scales, academic personalism and safety are both, safety and peer support for academic work are somewhat on the lower end as well. And so those things include items such as that students, so peer support for academic work, are students saying, and this is actually teachers reporting this too, are students demonstrating behaviors that lead to academic achievement? Do their peers think that homework is important? They feel it's important to come to school every day, so that's a snapshot of that. Academic personalism includes things like students report that their teachers notice if they have trouble learning something, give specific suggestions about improving work, explains things in a different way if needed. And then the safety would include things like that students report that how safe they feel out around the school, traveling between home and school, in the hallways, in the bathroom, and their general sense of safety in different areas.
Academic personalism that you mentioned is probably our lowest score. I'm sure it is our lowest score. Mm-hmm. And it also, when you describe it, of the teacher paying attention to the individual student and the needs of the individual students, resonates with me, at least, in terms of class size. That the higher the class size is, the less likely it is that this teacher is going to be able to spend a lot of time with any individual student. So can you comment on how class size could change and change our report and our result in this?
Mm-hmm. So I'm not familiar with direct research on class size and academic personalism, so this is all speculation. But certainly when you think about the items on this scale really suggest kind of the individual interactions with the teacher, which I think is the point that you're making, is that the teacher helps them catch up if they're behind. They notice if they have trouble learning something. They give specific suggestions about how they can improve their work, and certainly there would be difference in really the ability to do that based on the number of students you are interacting with.
So would we improve this if we could go to smaller class sizes?
Well, we'd have to look at the data and see how it plays out.
Well, the state of Florida prior to the year 2004 did similar studies and found that they wound up that their Congress produced a class size amendment saying that the student body, that no class ought to go to more than 25 students in elementary. For instance. So I have not followed up on that because I left Florida. But do you know of any other situation where we've been able to find cases where class size control has been implemented and studied?
I think, yes, in general, not specific to this particular measure or academic personalism measure, but there are a number of studies on class size and with mixed results. And I think it's because in general, class size is one factor, but there are a lot of factors as well that can impact the environment of a classroom. So there's some studies that will show that it has a pretty positive impact, others that show minimal impact in my experience. I don't know if others have other response. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as gathering the data, it says in one of the earlier slides that it's parent survey, teacher, and student surveys.
Mm-hmm.
How do we gather the data? And then could you also speak to the diversion between that one graph where the state score goes up quite a bit, is how it's coming out, and we're not so well.
Right.
And whether or not large unit districts like ours, is this all adjusted, the data adjusted for the differences of types of districts and for the quality of the data how it's gathered?
So the data are gathered, so the University of Chicago facilitates the data collection, and so they have a survey, an online survey, that then gets distributed to our staff and to our students, and secondary students, and to parents in the community. And then our administrators work really hard to get parent input to complete the survey as well. So then the data go directly to the University of Chicago and they aggregate it and they provide us this is the summary of information that's available to us. They look at the benchmarks really kind of based on state average. And so the survey level data that we get in response does not really aggregate down in terms of comparison districts, like who are our peer districts and how do we perform according to them. So I think that's an important question to keep in mind, that this is compared to the state as a whole, which is a very kind of heterogeneous group of districts as well. And so that is an important point.
One more thing. Toward the end, you have a slide that shows numbers and numbers of schools that meet certain specifications and certain levels. There it is.
Yeah.
Do you have this broken down by the specific schools so that we, I'm not asking you to show the slide,
right.
But do we have that information by school so that as we find any particular instance that's particularly in need, it can be brought to the attention of the board and all other appropriate people so that we can get there?
We do, and each school has their own school level report as well, so that they can use that information for things like their building improvement plans or school improvement plans, so they can really use the data to make some data-based decisions regarding where they need to focus their efforts. And as a district, we look at the data as well to determine where we kind of need to provide additional support. Yeah.
Is this data used in the school report cards? Or
It is. Yeah, so it's available on school report cards. I believe the last I heard, the school report card will be updated by the end of October with the new data, including the new park data as well as the 5 essentials data from last year. So that information is available at the school level and at the district level for anyone who has access to the report card, which would be anyone in the public.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
So next we have the bilingual ESL program update, and this is Amy. This is an informational item.
All right, get ready there.
Good evening. I have some handouts that are just some blow-ups of some of the slides you can see those. And so my name is Amy Crook Hernandez now, and I'm the bilingual ESL programs coordinator for the school district. And I'm here tonight to give you an update on our programming for English language learners. Feel free as I go to stop and ask me questions because there's a lot of data in here. So just to give you an historical perspective, I came to the school district in the fall of 2007. So prior to that, a task force was established and it was created to identify where our bilingual families live within the county. So at that time, based on that information, programs were housed for elementary at Jefferson, Cheeseboro, and Little John Elementary. So what I want you to see over time, sorry if I flashed one in the eye, in 2007 we had 450 English language learners in District 1. At that time we had about 14 to 16% English language learners, or Latino students. Now, here we are, as of last year, we ended the year with 771 English language learners. Our population has grown substantially, and we're up to about 28% Latino in our district. So, right now, as of last week when I placed this, we had 712 students, but we haven't had a chance to enter all the data into the state information system. So that number will increase. And then some more historical perspective. Back in 2007, when I got here, we had a program called Early Exit, and that was at Cheeseboro and Little John. That's where we have bilingual programming through 2nd or 3rd grade. And then we also had ESL pullout at Jefferson Elementary. Then in 2009, we started adding a grade level each year of bilingual. So by the end of 2010, we had bilingual up through 5th grade and continued to have pull out and push in ESL at Jefferson Elementary. Then in 2011, we changed our program to developmental bilingual education. It's also known as a one-way dual language program. And then Jefferson switched to content ESL model. And then in 2015, pull out ESL in non-program buildings was required by the state, always been required by the state, we just know that. So we moved an ESL specialist to work at non-program buildings. Those would be Brooks, Malta, Tyler, and Lincoln. Looking at middle school programs, between 2007 and 2010, we had a self-contained ESL program at Clinton Rosette Middle School. That's where all the 6th grade ELLs were in one room. They push in for math and certain content classes. And then when we had the program move, back when the high school started and we shifted buildings around, we moved the program to the new Huntley and switched from self-contained to content ESL through co-teaching. There's still self-contained ESL language arts, and there are bilingual resource services. And in the high school, what they've gone through, so 2007 to 2012, we have Mrs. Cappert here tonight, who's been here through this. We have had self-contained ESL humanities levels 1 through 4, and that is their humanities credit. And then we had transitional bilingual co-teaching for 4 classes. I don't know if anyone remembers Mara Lynn. She pushed in and co-taught biology and all the different 4 classes. Then in 2012, she left us and retired, and we partnered with the Embassy of Spain. We couldn't find bilingual teachers in the area because of the highly qualified status necessary for secondary teachers. So we partnered with the Embassy of Spain and brought in Spanish teachers. And they worked, Yale continued on with ESL, and then they had their content classes. This past year, we were able to get all local teachers for our bilingual classes, and we have ended our partnership with Spain. So here are the programs by building now. Since we redistricted, we had the opportunity to split the 2 sections of bilingual that were at Portland Elementary and move 1 section back to Little John. So we have K4 bilingual at Little John right now. We have families who can actually walk to their school. And we have developmental bilingual at Portland and Founders. Jefferson has content ESL. Huntley has the same. And the high school has ESL as well as the graduation requirements offered in bilingual areas. And then the non-program elementary schools have an itinerant ESL teacher who goes once a week to each school and offers about half an hour of service to each group of students. I'll explain what those program models mean in just a moment here. So if you'll click, we'll start with developmental bilingual education, which is one-way dual language. Here's our vision for that program. Our vision is to support all bilingual students to reach biliteracy and obtain the academic competency necessary to meet the demands of career and college readiness. Something that these students will be able to obtain. I don't know if you remember the year before last I came to you and talked about the seal of biliteracy. These students will get that. It starts out, all students are from the same language background, so they're all Spanish-speaking background. Kindergarten's about 90% Spanish. All core classes are in Spanish. Third grade, math switches to English, and then fourth and fifth grade, it's about 50-50 Spanish-English. So all subjects, though, are bridged. It's where if we teach something in Spanish, we bridge that core language, like say mathematics, we say matemáticas, and you bridge those words into the other language. So what we teach in Spanish, we bridge into English. What we teach in English, we bridge back into Spanish. And that assures us that our students will actually leave bilingual and biliterate. That's the difference from the late exit program, is that we want them leaving with both languages. Content ESL through co-teaching model is a unique model. Jefferson has this right now. So there are 3 ESL teachers. We, out of our Lift grant, we spend 2 sub days with them. So they take subs and then they meet with the core teachers, the classroom teachers, and they plan for the month. And so they differentiate their lessons and make sure the needs of the English learners are met. But then they actually go in and co-teach a subject. It's usually something like social studies or writing, one of the more difficult subjects for English learners. But then they also have beginner oral language groups. Jefferson is the school that houses the multitude of languages. We have a large Arabic-speaking population, West African French, Korean, all sorts of languages are at that school. Huntley has something similar. It's more developed though because of the way their schedule is. So they have self-contained ESL language arts, and that's based on the students' English reading proficiency levels. They actually take a placement test and are in, it's Voyager language is the class. So you might have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in the same double block because it's based on their reading proficiency level. And that's a program designed to close the achievement gap. But on top of that, they plan and teach with the core content teachers. So they'll go in and co-teach math or co-teach science, and that's by grade level. They differentiate those lessons based on the linguistic needs of the English learners and then offer bilingual support as necessary. Then you have the high school offerings. So I'll remind you about that rule, that admin code 228.3. Whenever you have 20 or more speakers of one language in a building, you have to offer bilingual education. It gets even trickier at the high school because there's also the legal mandate to offer graduation requirement classes in that native language, whether you have 25 kids in one class or not. So that gets tricky. So these are what we have. We do have ESL 1 is a double block. It counts as their humanities credit. We have single periods for ESL 2 through 4. And students are cross grade level in there as well, based on their English proficiency scores. But then those are the bilingual courses, and we have a mix of bilingual ESL right now because our Arabic population has grown so much. We mix the Spanish and Arabic students in certain classes, and that teacher is ESL and bilingual certified. So those are the 10 courses we offer, bilingual or ESL. So why do we use these models? Well, it directly connects with our mission in this school district. Go ahead, Mama. There's something from the federal government. It's the findings from Castaneda versus Picard in 1981. And these are 3 prongs that we're required to follow for our programming. So our programs have to be based on sound educational theory, recognized by experts in the field. So I know we all read studies where you might have 40 students did well with this one program in Idaho. That's not the type of study we can use. It has to be recognized by everyone in the field. And then it has to be implemented effectively, adequate resources, personnel. And then the key is number 3, it has to be evaluated and found effective in both teaching of languages and access to the curriculum. Oh, you're going to love this graph. This is one I handed out to you. Some people love it, some people groan. So you always, don't click yet, but there's an awesome animation coming up. All right, so you'll always hear us refer to the graph from Thomas and Collier. This research was released in '97, again in 2009, and again in 2012. And this research is research recognized in the field as needed by that Boston University card. It is based on 6.2 million English learners across the United States. It's one of the largest studies ever done, and it's longitudinal. So this research follows the reading test data of students from the time they enter school until the time they leave. That dashed line across the top, am I getting color right there? That is the 50th NCE, which is a National Curve Equivalent Score, basically the score needed to pass those state assessments, right? So ISAT here, Park now, Wassel, back where I was in Washington. That's where students need to be to close their gap. So you'll click just once, Amy. Thank you. When we look at all these programs, and you have them on the left-hand side there, the first one is two-way dual language program. That's a mix of English and English learners. Then the program we have, the late exit we used to have, early exit, ESL pullout, those go down the side. If you look at grades 1 through the end of grade 3, all the programs look like they're successful. Okay? And that's based on those reading test data. That's the score they need to pass. So if you click one more time, once the end of 3rd grade happens, you see a widening of the academic achievement. So if you click again, Amy, and maybe one more time. It's having fun. This is the program we used to have, early exit, and that's where students got bilingual support through 2nd grade. So if you click one more time, Amy, I'm going to show you the academic achievement gap right there. Students in early exit never met the 50th NCE. Now, this research is back from the 90s to now, so it's old, long research. They keep updating the research. That has less than a 50th% achievement gap closure. So click again. Let's take that one away. So of course we grew the program to the next best model. Go ahead. To late exit, and that's where you have bilingual K-5. But the goal of that program is for kids to get enough English so that they can be released into English. It's not to maintain both languages. So click one more time. You'll see the achievement gap there. That one has more than 50% closure of the achievement gap, but it does not close it 100%. One more time. So the current program we have is called Developmental Bilingual Education, or one-way dual language. Those are two federal labels for that program. Students are in that program, they get bilingual through 5th grade, but the emphasis is on maintaining both languages, drawing on the similarities and differences between the languages, and the goal is that students leave bilingual and biliterate. So if you'll click one time, Amy, right there, at the end of 8th grade, you have 100% achievement gap closure. Click one more time, Amy. Thank you. Two-way dual language closes it at the end of 5th grade, 3 years sooner. So if you'll click again, we'll show you the achievement gap closure for the ESL programming that we have. So pull out ESL is where you take the kids out, right here, and typically what you would do, I used to be an ESL teacher, I would take the students for half an hour and I'd teach them English and fix them, and then I'd put them back in the classroom and be good kids, off on your own, right? And it looks, up until the end of 3rd grade, it looks great. But after 3rd grade, the academic language becomes more difficult and students end up worse off than if they've never had ESL at all. It is a state requirement though, which is why we do offer it, and we offer it in the best way possible with the teacher co-planning and pushing into the classroom. The other one is content ESL co-teaching, and that's where what I explained earlier that Jefferson does and that Holly does. Now it does not have 100% achievement gap closure, but when you have so many different languages and you can't offer developmental bilingual education, it's the best we can do. So it does have a little over 50% achievement gap closure compared to the 0% achievement gap closure that ESL, pull-out ESL has. And that's that other chart that I gave you that with the grid. Those are programs, and then at the very bottom it shows you the achievement gap closure. And click again. Thank you. So here's what everyone always wants to know. Where does that funding come from? Well, funding sources are pretty neat for bilingual and ESL. Because first of all, just by showing up, we get the general dollars, right? You have students, you get funding for them. After that, they are considered students at risk, and so they qualify for Title I. We also utilize the SGSA funding for students. Specific for English learners, however, we have TBE and TPI funding that supplements the salaries of our specialists. TBE is Transitional Bilingual Education. TPI is Transitional Program of Instruction. And that's a significant source of money for us from the state. And we put it all towards salaries. LIPLEPS, I have to actually spell out acronym for that in another slide because I can never remember it. It supplements us with materials and professional development. So it's above and beyond what we get for Gen Ed students. If you click one time, there's one more funding source, and sometimes we get it and sometimes we don't. We have gotten it for the last few years. It's called Immigrant Education Program Funding. And it's totally based on the number of immigrants you have. And an immigrant is someone who is from the federal government, someone born outside of the country and has been enrolled in U.S. schools for fewer than 3 years. So we do get funding for that. One more click. Here's the fun funding part. So when we look at TB and TPI, this financial assistance is to help local school districts meet the extra costs of providing language instruction support to meet the needs of English language learners and to facilitate their integration into the regular public school curriculum. So we have the legal requirement of providing these services, and then the state says, thanks for doing it, here's some help. That's basically what TBE and TPI is. And it is based on the amount of service you provide. So students in grades 1 through 8 with fewer than 5 to 9 periods a week, we get $304 for. A period for elementary is half an hour. A period at secondary is like a class. So if they get 10 or more periods in grades 1 through 8, we get $607 per student. If for kindergarten and pre-K kiddos, we get $607 each. And then grades 9 through 12, 5 or more periods, we get $380, and then 10 or more, we get $750. So every year that amount increases for us because our population has increased. Back in 2014-15, we had 266,000. This year, we're scheduled to get 324,000. All right, and then we have LIPLEPS. There it is. There's the spell out that I can never remember. That acronym, Language Instructional Program for Limited English Proficient Students, and then the Immigrant Education Program. This is the budget that we use to buy additional materials beyond what the school district buys, like textbooks and those anchor texts and authentic work we're doing right now with our units. So native language instructional materials, ESL materials, materials for our bilingual parent group. We pay for substitutes when teachers go for professional development. For our curriculum meetings, everything it pays for their hourly PD and the benefits. It does pay for the salary of an instructional assistant at the high school and for benefits, registration fees, teacher resource materials when we do those book studies. So LIPLEPS, we get $83,000 this year, and then immigrant education, we get around $8,000. And then here is the total cost. So right now we have 18 teachers, that's about $1 million, that's in K-5 bilingual. And so you can see their salaries, in parentheses are the number of FTE. After that TBE, TPI supplemental grant, we're paying just over $2 million. But keeping in mind, those are classroom teachers, the bilingual teachers, that cost would be the same because you pay for number of students in your classroom. If you go to the next slide, right now we have 18 bilingual teachers teaching 414 students. So if those 414 students broke down into an even 28, which would be awesome, but they don't, we would only need 15 teachers. So because of that requirement of the bilingual program, we are employing 3 more teachers. If you click again, ESL is the most expensive program to run. With a bilingual teacher, that's just a teacher with the kids in her classroom or his classroom. ESL is an additional teacher going in to help classroom teachers. So right now at Jefferson, we have 3 teachers serving 89 students, and that's through co-teaching, full out, that additional service. We have the 1 itinerant position who's helping out at Brooks, Malta, Lincoln, and Tyler. And we have 4 teachers at Huntley. Half of their time is that self-contained time where they're doing the language arts block and then their assisted studies. The other half of their time is co-teaching. And then at the high school, we have 3 FTE total. 4 people, but 3 FTE serving 71 students. Okay. All right.
Where's Littleton?
If you go, Little John is under the bilingual. I grouped all the bilingual together. All right, go ahead. So just some thoughts about our bilingual students. The ones in developmental bilingual take all of their assessments in both languages, all the district level, the CBMs, all the lovely triangles you get to see. They take it in Spanish and English. They participate in math, benchmarking, PARC, SAT, and Access. The added caveat for our English learners, they have to reach Common Core state standards as well as English language development standards. And then if they're in bilingual, they have another set of standards, which are the Spanish language arts. And who are our ELs? English language, you'll see EL and ELs, ELLs, English language learners, and as English learners. So in DeKalb, the majority of our bilingual kiddos are born here. They're 2nd, 3rd generation. Then you have emergency immigrants. Our churches pull a lot of students in, so they might just be here for a few months before they get routed somewhere else in the U.S. And then we have the children of NIU staff and students. And a lot of them attend Jefferson Elementary. Here are the committees we have, and they kind of overlap. In the center there, we have our bilingual ESL leadership. So the buildings who have bilingual or ESL programs, their leaders come and we meet once a month. Then we have a program review. It uses that 3-prong system from custom made versus card. And then we have a bilingual ESL curriculum committee, and then the bilingual parent advisory council. So lots of district level committees for this type of program. They're all your acronyms. I'm sure there are more. It's hard to keep them all straight. Do you have any questions about our programming so far? All right. I think I'm up
Yeah,
next.
you are. Two-way dual language program. And this is an informational item.
This is informational tonight. Can you pass me my water? Thank you. And we can have, yeah, it's the PowerPoint down below. Okay. Thank you. You're gonna need those same handouts. All right. So tonight we're excited to bring you program innovation that we'd like for our school district. When you click, it's going to be on go back one, on the DeKalb book. There's a brief little video, a couple minutes that will, can you expand the screen and turn up the volume? About dual language. Where's
Buenos días a usted. Buenos días, buenos días, buenos días a usted.
The School District of Waukesha's two-way dual language program has English and Spanish-speaking students together starting in kindergarten, learning Spanish together, and providing language models for each other as they move through their elementary school years. The children become bilingual through the program because they learn the School District of Waukesha curriculum in Spanish. The students are language models for each other. When the teacher is teaching Spanish, the Spanish-speaking students are language models. When the teacher begins introducing English, the English students are the language models.
The children learn the language by the teacher immersing them through the language.
Sigue, nuestro patrón. Sigue el patrón ciego.
Amarillo, correcto. I never speak English in the classroom. My children only hear me speak Spanish. When it is English time, I go next door to the other classroom and I do English with her children. And then she comes to my classroom and does English. So our students never hear us speak English. Prior to this program, we had a strand of one-way dual language. And now we're adding a two-way dual language since fall of 2009.
I chose to enroll Caitlin in the program because I thought it offered her a unique challenge and a great educational opportunity to advance her education and have more opportunities in the future.
Unos gatos son negros y blancos, unos gatos son grises.
No, I don't think that he realizes that he's in a program different from other children.
This is a great opportunity to be able to offer them a tool that will become very useful to them.
Cuando yo voy a mi cama y no está, pero cuando levanto se sabe que ella duerme.
The dual language program for me was sold by the results that it has produced. Our family open enrolls from a different school district that has very high academic outcomes for kids. We wanted a more diverse school experience for our child, and this program is the exact right fit between having that ethnic, cultural, and language diversity and those high academic expectations.
Children learn many skills as a result of this program. For example, when the teacher is speaking a second language, the children need to have the ability to focus while using their cognitive and problem-solving skills to understand the teacher giving complex directions and also to learn the language. This program also gives the children the opportunity to work on team building, negotiating with peers, and social skills.
Tiene la mano de su mamá y que le da la mamá a su bebé. Un beso. Un beso. ¿Dónde? En la mano. ¿Y por qué? ¿Qué es la razón? ¿Por qué hace eso, tía? Porque estaba llorando porque no quería ir.
We begin by immersing the students for 90% of their day in Spanish. As we move up the grades, we add English. By the time the children get to 4th and 5th grade, half their day is in English and the other half in Spanish. This model has proven to be the most successful across the country.
At first, when we signed up for the dual language program, I was a little bit nervous as a mom, hearing that my son's academic progress in English or learning to read in English might be a little slower. That hasn't been the case at all. He's grown amazingly in his reading skills both in English and in Spanish.
I also like the idea of opening up his world to different cultures and experiences.
My mother's spent quite a bit of time in Central America and is fairly fluent. And we went to visit a couple weeks ago, and she asked Anna a question that I had no idea. We just walked in the door, and she asked Anna a question, and Anna responded to her instantly. Without even pausing, without even thinking about it. She was just taking off her coat and it just came out. And that was really neat to see how her mind was just right there, and it was just so very natural. It wasn't sitting around thinking about it, looking up some words, making a translation, and then answering. She was able just to answer very naturally.
Squish those cheeks. I know. We do have some teachers here. We have some parents here. In case you have questions specifically for them, I'll draw your attention back to this. The Castaneda, part of our work is to constantly review the program effectiveness, right? That's a legal requirement. Especially that third bullet. Our programming is based on educational research. It is implemented with commitment and resources, but that number 3 bullet is where we are focusing. So, the other component is the ESSA requirement. And when we're looking at program effectiveness, this is where this comes in. So we have something called annual measurable achievement objectives that are developed for English language learners. And that came out in the No Child Left Behind federal legislation, and now it's in the ESSA again. So districts not meeting the AMAOs are required to analyze why and then improve their program models so that AMAOs can be passed. So we have met AMAO 1 and 2. It's number 3 that we have not met for over 4 years.
What are we not meeting in that?
Go ahead to the next slide and I'll show you. The first one is that a certain percentage of our students have to make progress on the access test. That's that annual test we give for listening, speaking, reading, and writing for English proficiency. Our district outscores the state. We had 68.6% of students making that 0.5 increase. For number 2, we also outscore the state in that, and that was that a certain number of students had to exit the program or reach that exit criteria. The state wanted us to have 12% reach, we have 14.9. It's that third one that keeps getting us. So back in 2014, when we had results from ISAT, the requirement was that 24.2% of our English learners meet or exceed on ISAT. We only had 16.6%. We needed at least 29.5% to meet or exceed on math. We only had 19.9%. So we looked very closely at this in our work. Go ahead and click. So back in 2013, we started this group. It's called Perfect Match. It's based on a tennis court, which is why it's called Perfect Match. We have since changed it to Bilingual Program Review Committee because Perfect Match sounds a little funny. So we did a train the trainer module where Karina Avalos, a 5th grade bilingual teacher, and Sonia Enriquez, a 2nd grade bilingual teacher, and I we'd go get trained for 2 days, and then we'd come back and train the district. And then we'd go get trained and come back and train the district. And this training showed us how to look at data and research, legislation, district mission, how to mash that all together and really get at what our students need. Our large group has administrators on it, classroom teachers, reading, special education teachers, as well as bilingual, because you need everyone on board. It can't just be bilingual teachers deciding this. It needs to be the whole school. So with all of this work, we also had to come up with that program vision. And that's what it is. We want our students to be bilingual and biliterate and competent. Go ahead. So we look at this graph again, and we remember that it's 6.2 million students. So this data also includes, on this one, I read my writing now that I'm tired. The data includes the negative effect of low SES achievement. So two-way dual language reduces the effect of low socioeconomic status to less than 5%. And that's for all students who are not English learners. That's the mix of the English only in here as well. So in other words, it almost eliminates the cause of low income on your state testing results. So our committee wasn't just looking at what's in it for bilingual students, we were looking at what our entire district needed. And that is an area where we need help. Go ahead. So there's our perfect match playing court. And we had to start out on the left, and then of course I left it over there, Amy. They had, this is all the research we had to analyze. Then we had to make observations based on our research there. Then we had to have hypotheses of practice, like what we thought the cause was, and it all had to be based on, thank you, I can't read the research, legal parameters. Oh, thank you, I can't read that. You know what happened? Thank you. Research parameters, the mission and vision of the district, and then the standards like Common Core, English language program. So it's a 9-step process. And it took us a good year to get through, maybe a year and a half. And then we finally were able to come up with our program innovation. And this is it. The hypothesis of practice is that our students are not closing their academic achievement gap fast enough. They're not getting the academic English necessary to pass those state assessments. So our program innovation is to develop and implement a two-way dual language program for DeKalb. Beginning in the fall of 2008. So what is this program? A 50-50 two-way dual language program has a mix of English fluent and English learner students. And a class makeup can be 1/3 English fluent to 1/2, or half and half English fluent and English learner. So something that happened on the board meeting on the 6th is that we had to approve a new bilingual classroom for kindergarten, right? Because the state law is that you can only have 90% of the general education classroom in a bilingual classroom. So that means if you have 28 in gen ed, you can only have 25 in bilingual. So we had 9 too many students district-wide and had to open up that additional bilingual classroom. Okay, if we had had a two-way dual language program, we could have had, like we have right now, we have 18 in one bilingual classroom and 18 in another. We could have added English students to that to fill it up, to make it a two-way program. And then we wouldn't have had to add additional activity. So in instruction, half the day is in English and half the day is in Spanish. The goal is that bilingualism and biliteracy. And it is the only program shown to close the achievement gap by the end of 5th grade. But that's just a sample schedule of what it looks like to have half and half. We've been reading this book called 7 Steps to Success in Dual Language Immersion, and it tells you how to schedule your day and how it works with the medic units. Okay. Here are some of the things that this program would do for us. Of course, at the forefront of my mind is that it will close that achievement gap 3 years faster than our current program. It eliminates the problems inherent in segregated bilingual classes. We've had a huge focus on social justice. And what happens in bilingual is that when it's one-way dual language, all the students are from the same racial background. They're all Latinos because they're all from the same language base. And so they're in one strand and they follow each other K5 altogether. It increases the academic performance of non-ELLs. Something that's really neat about this is that by the end of 4th grade, the monolingual English kids who are now bilingual are reading 1 to 2 grade levels above their monolingual English peers. There are studies out of Colorado about how African American students do this, also 1 to 2 grade levels above monolingual English peers. So again, looking at achievement gap closure. It also increases the graduation rate for English learners and non-English learners. Right now, I think we're, as a district, our English learners have an 80% graduation rate. And so we're looking, of course, to raise that to 100%. So the other part of this is that bilingualism for all. I talked about the seal of biliteracy. Back in 2015, we had 19 students get that seal. This past year, we had 12 seniors and 5 juniors. The juniors will get it this year. We spoke with NIU. I've been on the committee with the state. NIU will give students up to 12 credits for that seal of biliteracy. That's like a cost saving of $10,000, right? If you've ever taken classes at NIU, 12 credits, and then the students only need 2 more classes to get a minor in that language. We had French and Spanish recipients this year. It increases attendance. This is the best part, there's no extra cost to the district. And I'll show you why in a second. The only cost is in professional development, which we already paid for out of the The future cost savings come at the middle and high school levels when we don't need those interventions. Right? If they're reading 1 or 2 grade levels above their peers in 4th grade, you don't need those RTI or MTSS interventions for these students. Go ahead. There are cognitive benefits, there are economic benefits. One thing maybe one of our families who are here can speak to is the economic benefits for our community when you have a two-way dual language program. Districts who have two-way dual language programs, people move in, they buy homes, and they increase the local economy. Okay, we spoke to many districts. We visited Harvard and Rockford, Woodstock, Arlington Heights, and that is a common thread for all those school districts. So limited spaces might be a challenge. We have plenty of bilingual students to fill this, to have a 50% bilingual, 50% English. On the years where we have a bubble like we do in kindergarten, room for English, we only have a third of the class be English fluent. We do have 20 teachers currently in the district who have reported their ESL endorsements to Human Resources. I know that there are more than that who have them because we've had Project Dreams, prior to that, Project Success, and Asset, and Amplify are coming. That's a grant-funded program that NIU runs through the Department of Literacy that pays for the ESL bilingual endorsement for teachers. If they have to buy books, all right, maybe they pay for, yeah, you took it right, okay. And then Ms. Meyer and I set up a cohort with NIU last year where, and it's still going on this year, where teachers are utilizing those tuition waivers when they're available, and they're in a cohort right now. Plenty of ESL endorsements coming. So in a 50-50 model, you need one bilingual teacher and one English as a second language endorsed teacher. So they have groups of students and then they switch at half day. So this teacher teaches in Spanish, this one teaches in English for half the day. They either go to the other classroom or the kids switch, and then the language for the student switches to the opposite language. These are our current teachers. Right now in a 4-section building like Portland and Founders, we already have endorsed bilingual teachers. Several of them have their ESL endorsements who could be on the English side, and some are right now in classes. That tells you when they need that endorsement. But there is a bubble right now at 2nd grade. We don't know if that is going to have to move up with the kids when they go to 1st grade, or if it's going to be like what happened last time where students moved out and we were able to, well, it was a very large class size that happened. We're kind of suffering for that in like 3rd grade right now. It's a very large class. But that's what it would look like in a 3rd grade. You have the bilingual and ESL. That would be your 2-way dual language, and then no change there. You'd have a gen ed room. Go ahead. That's what your class makeup would look like if half the kids were English fluent and half were English learners. So you'd have 14 of whom are a variety of racial ethnic backgrounds, and then 14 of whom are Spanish speaking or most likely Hispanic. Go ahead. On years where you have 1/3 English fluent and 2/3 bilingual, that's what the classroom makeup would look like. Right now, if you go into our classroom, imagine all green. They're all from the same one. We've already had some professional development. We had GLAD training, it's guided language acquisition design and ESL type strategies. We sent kinder and 1st grade bilingual and gen ed teachers to last year. It's a 6-day training, and they've been using those strategies in both classes. Our teachers started this teaching for biliteracy. It's that specific focus on finding the similarities within our languages back in 2012. And we have ongoing training in that. And then this past August, we had a mix of gen ed, resource teachers, administrators, bilingual teachers attend an intro to dual language training through the Illinois Resource Center here in our Ed Center. And then on top of that, we have more professional development that happens monthly. We have ESL bilingual liaisons at each of our program buildings. They meet with me, talk about the needs of their buildings. We design professional development. They go back and do it at their buildings, and all teachers can attend. Some, like at the high school, they operated as a PLC, and they work with gen ed teachers as well as bilingual teachers to provide professional development. I did throw in an assessment slide if you want to see that. Our bilingual students, one of the things that comes with 2-way dual language is assessment. Can you hit that, Amy? Oh, go back one. It is. So these are the assessments we currently use and would continue to be used in a 2-way program. The Apple is the only new one. That's the test that our students take when they're going for the seal of biliteracy. And we could give that to other students, but right now we just use it for juniors and seniors. So when I say that the program wouldn't cost more money, this is why. We already have the materials, because we already have a 1-way dual language program. The difference would be that the materials would get used twice in the same day when the kids switch. Because one teacher might be teaching a portion of the unit and reading one book aloud in Spanish. The kids switch half day, she's doing it again. So same amount of materials. They've already designed, the teachers have already designed their Common Core units alongside their Gen X years. The anchor texts are in both languages. My math is already in both languages. The units are being aligned to include that biliteracy component. And then we already have professional development going, and it will continue. And that's paid for out of LiftRise, that supplemental grant. And then we have a ton of ESL bilingual endorsement cohorts that have been available and continue to be available to our teachers. Another question that comes up is how will teachers or students be chosen? In speaking with all the districts, they have more English fluent students who want the program than they have urban. So first thing, of course, families have to attend an informational meeting before applying for the program. Neighborhood kids have priority, and if there are too many neighborhood kids then will fit in the program, there's a lottery. And then there's a waiting list. Every single district we talk with has a waiting list of English fluent students who want this program. Okay. And then here are some members of our committee. You can always talk to us if you want more information. This video, it's, okay, I'm not going to show it because I know there are other people on the agenda tonight. But this video, if you ever want to borrow it from me, it's an hour long. It's called Speaking in Tongues. And it follows students in dual language programs for Chinese and Spanish. It's amazing to see these little children. I know they use it in classwork at NIU. I do have some links, though, on the next slide. I have this book you can borrow. I have Dual Language Education for a Transformed World that has all that research in there that you can borrow. Or you can just ask us, or you can follow the links. That bottom link has all of the data slides from this book. Go ahead and click one more. If we have more time, I'll just direct you to where these links will take you. Where it says take a look, that's the video we watched at the beginning. The dual language programs that's highlighted, that has a list of all the dual language programs in Illinois. There are over 54 schools. Rochelle started a two-way dual language program this year. It's super exciting for them. But these are area schools who do have this program. If you have more time, there's a 4-minute video where it says click here, and it's from that Speaking in Tongues, and then there are 2 more parts to that. I'd like to watch it.
I have questions.
Yes.
So your proposal, I think your proposal is to run this program from 1st through 5th grade.
Kinder through 5th.
Okay, but what happens, can you help me understand what would happen in the middle school and at the high school? Because in the middle schools, we only have like 1 quarter, 1 semester, and at the high school, there's a Spanish 1 through 5 program, and so we're going to have 5th graders and the high school students. What are we doing?
Let me tell you, this is a great opportunity that we actually have. So it would take several years for the kindergarten class that starts in 2018 to get up to middle school, right? So we have 6+ years to prepare. Right now, what we have a teacher that was just hired who is bilingual. So if the schedule could be changed around, if this dual language program were already at the middle school level, we could have that teacher teach a bilingual science class to our students. If you hire teachers who are already bilingual and certified, you can certainly run those courses bilingually. You could choose science or math, but that would mean when you're hiring new teachers at the middle school level, that you hire bilingual teachers.
Okay, but to my brain, first of all, when you learn a foreign language, you have to keep practicing. So having them drop off in middle school doesn't seem like a good idea.
Right, it's not.
And also, I would really like you to come back with a proposal about how the Spanish program at the high school is going to look if we do this.
Okay, I can certainly do that.
Could you?
I would love to do that. Yeah, are you on that? Did you take a note?
Well, I can tell you briefly. So we have many native speakers of Spanish, and we already have a program in place. They go to the Spanish native speakers class, which we have in place now. That prepares them for Spanish 3 the next year, and then 4, and then 5. So they're able to all our native speakers are able to go through the 5th year of Spanish.
But is it going to be redundant at that point?
No, because it's the same. It's not any more redundant than our English speakers are when they are in community class. So because we have our Spanish speakers doing that now. Our native Spanish speakers do native speakers and then 3 more blind.
And the difference between Spanish for native speakers and Spanish as a foreign language that other kids take is how they learn it. They're not teaching them say. They're teaching them literature in Spanish, poetry in Spanish. They're utilizing Spanish versus teaching them Spanish. So that's already in place. Plus, in our work with James over at the high school, we opened up these classes to students who are already in AP Spanish. If you're in AP Spanish, you can take a TEE course. So because they've already got that high level of academic Spanish, if they choose to go into a TBE course, a transitional bilingual course, they're allowed to. And there the instruction is all in Spanish.
Okay, I still.
Middle school, yes, ma'am, I will do
Still would
that.
like to see numbers and information.
Sure.
And also, I mean, there's nothing in here about how many classrooms you would be doing this in. You said you have 20 bilingual teachers right now, but.
We have 20 ESL endorsed for just gen ed teachers. We have 18 bilingual teachers. So we have a strand at Portland, Founders, and Little John. So that would, to start out, you start with dual language, you start out with kindergarten, and then you roll it up, right? So our first year, we would have 6 teachers, so 6 classrooms. Then the next year would roll up to first, and then the next to second.
So with this, we would need no new teachers.
No new teachers, no new FTE, no new teachers.
Okay, so what happens when we get to like 4th or 5th grade? I mean, how easy is it to find teachers who?
We already have the bilingual teachers.
But as we continue to roll it through all the elementary schools, we have 8 elementary schools.
No, we wouldn't do all 8.
Do all 8?
No, because it's based on your ESL or your English learner population. We only have the population to do it at 3 goals. Were there any parents that came or teachers?
Well, Carrie has a question.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
We need, yeah, let's have here.
Okay, so I think you said earlier, if you have more than 20 or more in a building, you have to offer bilingual education. What happens when you get more than 20 of another language group?
Well, boy, that happened to us at Jefferson. We had to open an FTE for an Arabic teacher. We were not able to fill that position, so we filled it with an assistant. That was 3 years ago, I believe, we had to open that FTE. Yeah. So legally, we should have Arabic bilingual education at Jefferson Elementary based on our.
I think it's a two-edged sword. I'm a little concerned. I was in Niger, Africa for a while once, and I had to listen to Balami, Hausa, Tuareg, and French, and English to a small degree. If I'd gone to Nigeria, it would have been English rather than French. But at any rate, with the increasing diversity and the increasing number of language groups, wow, this is kind of boggling my mind, just your presentation tonight. And I'm wondering, okay, so we're going to do dual languages for Chinese?
No.
Then why aren't we doing Chinese? They're the largest language group in the world. You know, so I mean, there's a whole lot of questions that this brings up.
Right. So a two-way dual language program, why we're bringing it is for our current bilingual students who need to close their educational achievement gap 3 years sooner.
Yeah, so that's our motivation.
So that's our motivation.
Yeah.
Yes to Chinese, yes to Arabic, but we don't have the English language learners to fill that two-way program. We definitely have it for Spanish. We have 414 Spanish ELLs.
But the model would fit another language group if we had
Yeah.
that and those sorts of
Absolutely.
things.
Absolutely. Any thoughts, friends?
Impressive, it's a lot of work.
Well, I mean, I think we need to see a more structured format to come back with this. I mean, what schools, how many classrooms you would be talking about, English and Spanish speaking. I mean, we need to see some structure so we can put together really the FTEs to the classrooms and have.
And also with the curriculum that's going to cost.
Right, and the curriculum.
There's no cost to curriculum. There is no cost to this program other than professional development.
So, but if we're getting
already own
English,
it.
I mean, I guess, let's just make it.
We already have the teachers.
No, but I'm saying the curriculum.
Curriculum's the same.
It's the same.
So the books and everything were.
We already own it because we have one-way dual language.
Okay.
So we already own all of the materials. The bilingual teachers have been working with Gen Ed on those ELAs. Is Kim in here? I'll just read it here. That's all developed.
Can I say?
So say, yeah.
So,
He's
sorry.
on the committee with us.
One quick comment, where we don't allow them from the audience.
Oh, it's from he's on our committee.
Quickly, please.
Okay, I understand the confusion. All that's happening is right now they have what's called a maintenance program. And so you have all Spanish speaking, all Spanish dominant kids in the classroom, K through 5. All we're proposing to do is start adding English dominant kids into the
I've been with Amy to a
Yeah.
presentation on this, I've
Yeah.
seen it.
So all the curriculum is the same, the teachers are the same, there are no additional costs, everything is exactly the same. The only thing different is that now you're going to be putting English dominant kids starting in the kindergarten for the first year. The second year, you'll have kindergarten and first grade, and move up.
Yeah,
That's the only difference.
I've seen it, but
So
I'm
that,
concerned about things that we haven't thought through here on cost and so forth. I mean,
Right.
until we can see the rooms and stuff, I think we need to have some
So-
very.
I'm confused too, because I thought I had that, can you go back?
No, I
to
mean, I'm
the-
just saying, I think we need to see, okay, at Little John, it's gonna be X amount of rooms.
Yeah, that's
And here's
actually
what we're doing.
Mhm. That's that slide we have where there's a bilingual ESL. Go up, forward, not backward, go forward. There's, keep going, keep going, keep going. There we go. That's Little John. So 2 rooms, that would be two-way, and 1 that would be gen. If you go back one, it looks like Portland and Founders. 2 rooms that are the two-way, 2 rooms that are gen A.
I'm gonna need to look, I mean, I'm still not sure.
Would you like me to bring more information back to the next board meeting, or would you like to meet as a separately? How would you like that information?
How about if we bring this back as an informational item at the next board?
Right.
Is that good?
Good hard specifics.
Okay, and can I email you for more questions about?
Sure, sure,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Is everybody okay with that? Oh, okay, thank you, Amy. And next we have Human Resource Administrative Contract. This is an action item that the Director of Human Resources Employment Contract for 2016-2017 approved by the Board of Education in March 2016 remain in effect, and there should be no changes to salary or other terms and conditions to the employment contract. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
You're in favor?
Yes.
Mary Malott,
Yes.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes. Okay. Next we have approval of new salary for Billy Hormel, principal at Little John. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the new salary of $93,895.84 for Billy Hormel, principal at Little John School for the 2016-2017 employment contract year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mary Malott,
Yes.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky, you're in favor?
Yes.
Victoria Newport.
Yes. Okay, next we have, the, approval of additional registered nurses, FTE. And this is an action item that the Board of Education approve the addition of 1 FTE for a registered nurse to fill the immediate medical needs of the district. Is there any, actually,
Do you have any
yeah.
questions about the proposal? One thing I would like to point out is that, due to the immediacy of this need, I will need to look at a contracted agency so that we can get someone in rather than, securing someone, as a new FTE. But the cost would be approximately the same because we would not be providing those benefits. But it's because of the immediacy of needing to bring someone in. Yes.
On that, Christie, is there going to be, if presuming we will keep this person as part of the district and move this person into FTE, will we be able to do that for next year? And without any additional costs for the contract?
Right, that's a great question. That is why perhaps we should bring in the contracted registered nurse, because we currently have one of our certified school nurses out on leave, and so we are short-staffed.
So we will not need this person for the following year of the contract, just what?
That would be my hope. It depends on the medical situation at the time. Make any promises, but that would be my hope.
Any other comments? All right, roll call please.
Somebody make a motion.
Oh, yeah, didn't you? No. Oh, do a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, roll call.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Green.
Yes.
Terry Malat,
Yes.
Victoria Nichols.
Yes. Okay, next we have business and finance, adoption of the fiscal year 2016, 2017 budget. This is an action item that the Board of Education adopt the fiscal year 2016, 2017 budget as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Green.
Yes.
Terry Malat,
Yes.
Victoria Nichols.
Yes.
Howard Solomon.
Yes.
Next, we have the non-sufficient fund return check fee charged to families, and this is an action item that the Board of Education approve charging a fee of $25 for non-sufficient fund return checks. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
This was the one where we already, for those persons of need who are not able to, or are likely to be in a bad financial situation, we already have this covered.
Right.
Okay.
So am I assuming now we don't have a charge for that, or we haven't been?
Andrew?
We have now.
Okay.
Okay, roll call please.
Vicky Green.
Yes.
Terry Malat,
Yes.
Victoria Nichols.
Yes.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Next is the non-business consent agenda. This is an action item that the Board of Education approve the non-business consent agenda items A through I.
I make a motion that we remove from the approval of personnel action items the DCTA letter of agreement on course overloads, and that we remove item D, approval of letter of understanding with the DeKalb Classroom Teachers Association.
Do I have a motion for a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call please.
Terry Malat,
Yes.
Victoria Nichols.
Yes.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Green.
Yes.
So now we are going to approve the remaining. The Board of Education approve the non-business consent agenda items A through C and then E through I. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call please.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Green.
Yes.
Terry Malat,
Yes.
Victoria Nichols.
Yes.
Howard Solomon.
Yes.
Next is the business consent agenda. That the Board of Education approve the business consent agenda items A through C, and this is a action item. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call please.
Howard Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis,
Yes.
Vicky Green.
Yes.
Terry Malat,
Yes.
Victoria Nichols.
Yes. Next, we have new business administration, and this is an action item that the Board of Education vote to approve the RFP for the diversity needs assessment and the diversity plan. Discussion, please.
This is.
Oh, sorry, motion.
So moved.
All right, sorry.
Okay, this is only an RFP, it does not indicate a commitment at this point to any particular provider, is that correct?
Correct. Any thoughts?
We have one presentation on this
Right.
next week, and we are not, certainly not ruling that out by any means, as many of the persons in here were very enthusiastic about it. But we do want to take the opportunity to get proposals.
I mean, this is very important, we need to have it done, but I think we need to make sure we look at all of the.
It's a matter of business protocol to
Correct.
just get proposals before we go ahead and do this. Okay, thank you.
I mean, from my understanding is the board is 100% behind this. We just need to make sure we're going about it the correct way. And I would hope to have these numbers back and the proposals by the second meeting in October.
Thank you.
Is everybody in agreement with that? Okay. Roll call please.
Vicky Green.
Yep.
Gary Black,
Yes.
Victoria Ford.
Yes.
Lauren Solomon,
Yes.
Fred Davis.
Yes.
Next, we have recommended revisions to Board of Education Policy 4:60. This is an informational item. The Board of Education will hold a first reading and recommended possible revisions to Board Policy 4:60 from the Illinois Association of School Boards as attached. Got a motion? Sorry, information.
No, I just, we need to talk about footnote 3 here, right?
And what number we want.
What number we want to put in there.
Okay, we are not at this point adopting this, we're only.
It's information.
It's information.
And I think what we had, I would like to see a 0 the amount.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And we also need to make sure that we also include some language relevant to personnel decisions as well.
That was my concern, is that when I read through this the first time, I looked at it as a contracts purchasing sort of a policy. And I really didn't think of it as an employment contract policy. And I'd like to see, as Howard has said, language in it that would define or exclude that issue. And so that we know when we use this policy, we cite this policy, we're citing it for contracts with Commonwealth Edison or with a book company or something. Or, you know, if we wanted to include employment contracts, as we just heard from the nurse, you know, an outside contracting employment agency, that it would apply to that. And I don't see the clarity in policy as it's written.
You want me to go back down there and see if they have specific language for this? Because I don't think that I ever, I mean, it was like a month ago when I talked to them, but you want me to call back and see if I can find some, like early next week?
Well, yes, I would, if it's possible, if they don't have the language, we can invent our own, because we're enough concerned about it, that we should be incorporating it into our policy.
Right, but if they have boilerplate language that their attorneys have written.
Yeah.
We're looking at it,
Sure. Then we're sure.
Well, let's have Vicki look further into the policy and come back at the next meeting with information. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. And with that, we are going to adjourn the open session, and we're not going to go into closed session. So that the Board of Education adjourned to closed session, discuss the acquisition and lease or lease of real property, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, collective bargaining, student disciplinary matters, and probable litigation after which action may be taken. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. We're gonna ask the people leave.